What's going on, everybody? It is your favorite apostates.
I can't.
I'm McKay.
I'm Jordan.
And here we are again. We're doing this shit again. God.
And these aren't just cute cosplay outfits.
I wish they were. If in case any of you were wondering, these were the clothes that we got married in, Jordan and I.
Yep.
In this portrayal right here. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So
I had to put this shit over my wedding dress.
Yeah.
A green apron.
Oof.
Over my wedding dress.
Yeah. So we just kind of wanted to show off these robes a little bit in this one. I know we talked about getting into like the alleged symbolism and stuff once we get to the third video, but we thought we would just kind of address it right now so you can see a little bit better. Obviously, I'm wearing a black shirt that says Disentomb on it. That would not be allowed in the temple, in case you were wondering. You would be wearing a white shirt, white pants, and that's just too much for me. I'm not about it. Anyway, so if you are one of our resident Mormons, hey, I've been getting a lot of comments where people are saying, you really need to respect this stuff, even though you're not a member anymore. And sorry, I don't give a shit. Especially because the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormon Church, does not respect the identity and has not respected the identity of so many classes of people, Black people, LGBTQ plus people, etc.
Disabled people for
a long time, nearly 2 centuries on some of those counts. They also are not in the business of making apologies.
I'm not aware that the word apology appears anywhere in the scriptures, Bible or Book of Mormon.
So until that changes, neither will I, especially when it comes to the Mormon Church. So yeah, we're going to keep doing this, and I'm sorry. I don't know. Don't watch. Cover your eyes. Click away. I don't know.
I don't know what to tell you. Like, I really just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
And I think the main reasoning behind the church, I think the church has a picture of the clothes. If you've been watching a while, you know what that's about. Of the ceremonial clothes on the website. I'm pretty sure they have it with like the apron and stuff, not on anybody, but they have them like laid out on a table on the church website. So you can see them and what they look like, but it's not what the clothes are that's the problem. It's what they look like in the context of what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's like the clothes themselves are bizarre, but it's what they're doing in the clothes that kind of takes it to the next step. So
yeah. Well, I think even though they portray it, people get their... I'm taking this shit off. I have to put my hair in a hair tie because otherwise my hair doesn't fit in the bonnet, whatever the hell you want to call it. Okay, sorry about that. Now that we have that crap off our heads, I think a lot of people get their garmies in a wad over people like us wearing this because the tag on each of them says, and I quote, LDS authorized pattern for use only by endowed members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So we are now no longer authorized endowed members of the Church of Latter-day Saints, but I feel like we are grandfathered in because we were authorized members and when we purchased these. So suck it. We've got them and you can't really change anything about that. Anyway, let's address some of the stuff that we got a lot of questions about in the last video that it's just easier if we address them right up front and now while they're at the forefronts of our minds.
So first things first, from the last video, I pinned this question to the top on the last video because it was a really great question that we did not address. So somebody asked, are there allowances made for disabled people who can't stand up or change their clothing, or for people who may have lost limbs or were born without one and can't do all the tokens? How do they tell Satan to be gone, whatever, etc.? So this is a really good question, and we should have addressed this in the first video.
Yeah.
And here's some anecdotal experience. In my and McKay's experience, the level of accessibility in the temples kind of depends on the temple. especially if we're talking about age of the temple. Some of the older temples are going to be extremely difficult to navigate with something like a wheelchair. And someone mentioned in the comments that religious institutions are exempt from having to comply with ADA. I wasn't sure if that was the case or not. So in this case, the temple has no requirement to adhere to ADA standards to make things accessible. So especially when you think about the endowment room's kind of set up like a movie theater, but then there's like some stairs and like some weird, like an outer ramp and things. So it's not the easiest to navigate with a wheelchair. So not
all of them are on an incline either. Some of them are just level.
So that's the thing, is it kind of depends on where you are. The second thing, if people aren't able to, and I know this because somebody has told me this, that is in a wheelchair. I've heard, because I didn't know this for sure, but they told me if you can't make the movements or you can't do like the stupid little handshakes or whatever the case may be, or like if you had gone in and you had broke your arm and you were in a cast or any of the above, they will assign a temple worker to you. And that temple worker will act as proxy for you.
Is that double proxy if you were doing it for the dead? Damn.
Basically.
Double proxy. Sheesh.
I don't know how they would do it any other way.
No.
But the friend that I had who went through this time and did this said it was a really demeaning experience because it's kind of, she was like, I felt like I was being treated like a child because I had this like person assigned to me that. So there's that.
Don't you think God would maybe understand that that some people aren't able to do all of the little tiny shit?
Just a
interesting
thought in the old brain there. As far as like interpreters, ASL, things of that nature, I don't know where it's like everywhere, but at least in the temple where we live, there's at least one ASL session, American Sign Language session a week. And so members can go and attend that session specifically.
And they probably just have the temple worker go up and sign it. Or maybe they might have an adaptive movie for it. I know in places where there's a lot of Spanish speakers, it's basically like everybody in there and they just play the Spanish audio over the regular movie. So I don't know if maybe they have a recorded bit for the dialogue or if the temple worker is able to do ASL.
So it's not like...
We've never been, obviously.
No, and it's not like you could go in any time into any temple and be like, I need an interpreter. That's not going to happen. So they have designated sessions for those type of things, but it's not...
Yeah.
It's not completely accessible in that sense. The last thing, this is straight out of the church handbook when we're talking about more severe intellectual disabilities. This is straight out of the handbook. Individuals whose disabilities make them not accountable are saved in the celestial kingdom of heaven. This is from Doctrine and Covenants 137:10. For this reason, ordinances are not needed or performed for them. The only exception is sealing to parents for those who were not born in the covenant.
Which is ironic because there was church material that said that people who had disabilities like that were less valiant in the pre-earth life, just like people who have black skin. So I don't know when that changed, but
that's a whole other video to talk about that.
Case in point, my uncle has been a member, just like all my other aunts and uncles, has been a member his whole life. He has Down syndrome and he's never been to the temple. He's turning 45 this year, I think. So yeah, and it's kind of weird because he doesn't have to go to the temple, but for a long time, that's something that my grandmother wanted for him. I don't know why, but especially when they're like, yeah, you don't need it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. Weird.
It's kind of, a lot of them I have heard is kind of left up to the discretion of the family and the bishop. And so if the family does feel like...
think it's important.
If they think it's important and they want it, then typically they'll go through with it. but that's what the handbook states. So obviously there are lots of variations to that rule. That's not a very black and white thing.
So that's an important thing. Another thing, it's not very easy to hear in the recording. They were in fact saying Aaronic, as in the priesthood of Aaron, not ironic or erotic.
Erotic was a fun one.
But
I can hear the ironic.
That would be dope if they were either of those things. It's ironic that there's so much more emphasis placed on men in the priesthood than there are in women, because women can do so much more.
Fair.
The Aaronic priesthood.
So it is the Aaronic, Aaronic, like Aaronic.
Aaronic.
The third thing that we got lots of comments about was the video that we have been watching was filmed by New Name Noah or Mike Norton. And we had a couple people who commented that were like very concerned about what the church did to this poor person because of what he did. So, funny story, the church did end up making some changes because of the infiltration of Mike into the temples when he wasn't supposed to be there. They added barcodes to the temple recommends. They used to just flash it and go in. Now they have to scan it when you go in. So they added barcodes.
Just check the dates, and that was it.
Yeah. And then a lot of the temples had pictures of Mike's face in the temple so that people would know what he looked like if he were to come in. He was arrested once for trespassing on temple property. But the context of that story that he gave me was that was the 6th temple he had been in that day, and it was his birthday. So to jazz things up a little bit, he told the first security guard in the first temple, you know, what his plans were and what he was doing just to see what would happen. And so they were there awaiting him at that 6th temple. And he was arrested for trespassing. But yeah, he's done. I think he told me, so straight from the horse's mouth, he told me that I could share that he has been through at least 9 temples over 50 times since he resigned from the church. He was caught once for that trespassing charge, and he got like an $800 fine. And that resulted in getting $5,000 in donations, which he used to buy better equipment.
There you go.
So he most recently went like 2 or 3 months ago to one of the ones in Utah. So he has not stopped.
No.
So this is like an ongoing thing from him. I would not be surprised if we saw more from him in the future. But
yeah, the security in the temple overall is not exactly like that beefy. Like they have added some security features to the temple recommends, but nothing too extensive. We have a friend who sat on the men's side for a really long time, and one time was able to sit on the women's side. So
after transitioning.
Yeah, as long as you have somebody who has a valid one, like you really wouldn't have too much issue.
They're not going to like wand you and see you. Like they're not doing that. Which is why it's easy to take in some type of recording device. And Mike has very nice equipment, which makes it not obvious. So that's how those things have happened. He has lots of other videos on his YouTube channel if you would like to see others. But we will be watching the second half of the one we started today. Okay, so let us review. So if you are coming to this video and this is the first one you have seen, you're going to want to back it up. There are two videos that precede this one. The one before this is the one that you need to watch the most because this is a 2-part video for one ritual or one ceremony. But it's so long we had to split it in half. So this is the second piece of it, the last
second
half.
part of the ceremony.
Yes. So you go watch the first one, otherwise you're going to be super confused. So,
well, even after watching that one, you probably
are still
pretty confused. But yeah.
So again, remember we're walking through this as we did for the first time without giving you the greater light and knowledge about what all this stuff means. So you're going into it as blind as we did, remember. So we just wanted to...
It's not that deep, by the way. Just spoiler alert. It's really not that deep.
It's not. So at this point, everybody's dressed. You can see Mike has his green apron on here. Just to review, because we didn't talk about this last video, so I'll kind of show you a little bit closer up. You saw McKay's, the men's is different, obviously. than the women's. The women have a veil. It's super long. You're supposed to tie it in a bow in front.
Here's the bonnet. This is how it used to be. They don't have this little tail anymore.
They took it off.
And they have a little bow on this side. We'll talk about that more in the next.
We'll talk more about symbolism in the next video, but we just wanted to show you kind of what they are. So that's the veil. This is important because it will be part of the ceremony that you haven't seen yet, that you will see today.
We talked about putting on the apron that represented the apron of fig leaves that Adam and Eve put on in the Garden of Eden after they partook of the fruit. This one is a fairly new kind of design. Mm-hmm. They used to be pretty just rectangular with the same embroidered leaves.
I think that's what Mike says.
Interesting thing, they have one like kits that you can buy and embroider your own. I don't know who the hell wants to do that. It was so popular. I don't know why anybody would do that. Not that you're weird if you would want to do that, but like buying your own kit so you can do that is.
So you saw the robes that we had on earlier that just go across.
Yep.
It's like way over there, so I'm not going to go get it. But it just sits across the side. During the ceremony, you have to switch the side it's on.
Those, I just want to make a point. Just the headwear is different as far as ceremonial clothes go.
Everything else
is the same.
There is a sash or a belt or
girdle
or whatever the hell they call it. I've heard like 15 million things. So this you tie around the apron. So you tie this around your waist, and during the ceremony, you will tie it in two different places. You will switch it from one side to the other. Right?
Yep. They took that out though, actually.
That's different now. I don't remember. You changed so many damn things.
Yeah, they've made some changes since we've been last time, and we'll go over some of those.
And then somebody asked specifically about this. This is the envelope that we talked about in the last video. So you come into the endowment ceremony without any of these clothes on other than your white clothing. And all of your ceremonial clothing is in here in this little envelope. So you store it all in here.
That one is actually kind of like a primo upgrade envelope because it's got this little lacy thing. Mm-hmm. Mine is not. It's just plain the same kind of polyester. A lot of people we did videos about this on TikTok, and people were like, "Man, that looks comfy." It is not. No. I had a lot of trouble in here. I had to cut the audio in some places because just movement created so much noise because it's just polyester on polyester, and it is not soft at all.
It's not, and you have they're all tied in different places, so you're sitting there and it's all clashing together, and the veil doesn't stay on your head properly, so it's falling over all the time, and then you're getting choked by the bow, and it's a disaster. And then everything else is white, right? So you either have a white dress, white slip underneath, so it's not see-through. You're supposed to be wearing a white bra. Then you have your garmies, and then you have little slippers.
Slippies.
And slippies was the best part of the temple for me because these slippies are like walking on pillows. So
memory foam.
So comfy.
Worth the upgrade. The ones that they would just give you if you rent, it's literally just like the sole, you're walking on the sole of a shoe, and that's it. They're the worst.
It's lame. So those are the clothes. And at this point in the ceremony, you have all of those on.
Yep. They are currently, and like I said, they took this part out where you put the robes on the different sides. They're dressed in the robes of the Aaronic priesthood, which has the robe over the left shoulder and the girdle tied on the right side. For the men, that means that the bow is over the right ear so the little tail can connect. I don't know why they took that out, but
the tail.
I don't even know what to call it. It's like a rat tail. So.
It's like a tail.
Anyway, so that's where we're at now. We've already received the first 2 tokens, or the only 2 tokens of the Aaronic priesthood. There will be a review, so if you have forgotten them, don't worry. They'll talk about them a little bit later. Let me just make a note. There is a part where it cuts to a different filming in a different temple and 2 different angles. So it's 2 different ordinances that were happening. And the audio, I did what I could. So please bear with me. Some of it kind of sucks and some of it is just really jarring. And I was like, I don't want to change it too much because it's an experience. So let's make some changes real quick and then we will get to it.
Jehovah, we have been down to Adam and Eve and their posterity in the celestial world, and have cast Satan out of their midst. We have given unto them the law of the gospel, as contained in the Holy Scriptures. Also a charge to avoid all like-mindedness, loud laughter, evil
So this is the
speaking of
reporting
Lord's
part
anointed,
where Peter,
the
James, and
taking of the
John
name
go
of
up to
God in
Jehovah and
vain,
say, hey, we did all
every
this.
other unholy and impure practice, and have caused them to receive these by covenant. We have also clothed them in the robes of the holy priesthood, and have given unto them the second token of the Aaronic priesthood, with its accompanying name and sign. This is our report.
It is well, Peter, James, and John. Elohim, Peter, James, and John have been down to Adam and Eve and their posterity in
Oh
the
my God, this
celestial
part's
world,
so long.
have cast Satan out of their midst, and have
Bye,
done all
Satan.
else that they were commanded to do.
Damn it,
It
Satan's
is
going.
well. Jehovah, send down Peter, James, and John again to the celestial world. Have Adam and Eve and their posterity change their robes to the right shoulder, preparatory to officiating in the ordinances of the Melchizedek.
I also want to point out, people were like, do you just watch this the one time that you go for yourself? No, you watch this every single time, even if you're not going for yourself. When you go for people that are dead and everything, you have to watch, you have to sit through this every time.
Every single time.
So,
Priesthood, and introduce them into the terrestrial world. Instruct Peter, James, and John further to give unto them the law of chastity, and put them under covenant to obey this law, which is that the daughters of Eve and the sons of Adam shall have no sexual relations, except with their husbands or wives to whom they are legally and lawfully wedded. Give unto them
oh, there's the LGBTQ erasure right there.
the first token of the Melchizedek priesthood, or sign of the nail, with its accompanying name and sign. Have them return, and bring me word.
It shall be done, Elohim. Peter, James, and John, go down
It shall be
again to
done,
the
Elohim.
celestial world. Instruct Adam and Eve and their posterity to change their robes to the right shoulder, preparatory to officiating in the ordinances of the Melchizedek priesthood, and introduce them into the terrestrial world. Give unto them the law of chastity, and put them under covenant to obey this law,
Maybe I'll
which
speed
is
this
that the
up.
daughters of
Jesus.
Eve and the sons of Adam shall have no sexual relations except with their husbands or wives, to whom they are legally and lawfully wedded. Give unto them the first token of the Melchizedek priesthood, or sign of the nail, with its accompanying name and sign, and return and bring us word.
It shall be done, Jehovah. Come, James and John, let us go down. We
It's
are
also
instru-
weird because this dude is now Peter, James, and John. That's who he's representing now. So that's kind of weird. But can you see like the extra level of like purity culture that's added onto here? Like if you haven't been married yet, like you went from you need to not have sex or else you need to repent, talk to the bishop, to if you fornicate, you will literally be taken to church disciplinary action. It is not only is it just a serious sin, but you're also breaking one of your temple covenants. And remember from last time, God will not be mocked. So it's just adding another layer of guilt and shame if you just do
And we might have
something that's
hinted.
natural to a lot of people.
We might have hinted at this before, but consequences and punishments for people within the church who are endowed are much more severe than for those who aren't. So, like when I was in college and I dated returned missionaries, I wasn't endowed yet, and they were. So if we were to fool around, the punishment for me might be you don't take the sacrament for a few weeks. The punishment for them is much more severe, including up to being disfellowshipped, to which is not being able to participate in any church ordinances.
At all.
Extramarital affairs are typically grounds for excommunication. So it's severe. Once you take these covenants,
Yeah, it is.
your ass is on the line.
Yeah. So that's where we go from, the punishment is pretty bad. You get shamed in public because you don't take the sacrament. You have to confess to your bishop, which can a lot of times lead to sexual assault situations where the bishop is asking probing questions that are way too much because he's not following any sort of guidelines that are set by the church. to you literally cannot participate in the church, or you are literally out of the church and everything that you've done is wiped, gone. So in my eyes now, that's like, sounds great. But
to
to
a
someone
member,
who is a true believer,
that's devastating.
that's losing your salvation, essentially. So anyway.
To have you remove the robe and change it to the right Melchizedek priesthood, and to introduce you into the terrestrial world. You may now remove the robe and make the change.
So like we said, this is where they change the robes over.
We now enter the terrestrial world.
That they don't do anymore. It says right then, we now enter the terrestrial world. In some temples, they just change the lighting so it like represents a different room. In other temples, you literally move into a different room. In smaller temples, like in the Guatemala City temple, you just all did everything in one room, and it was rather small, just so they can fit more rooms in and get more people doing it at the same time. But in bigger temples, it doesn't matter as much.
The couple will now come to the altar.
There's our witness couple, our besties.
We are instructed to give unto you the law of chastity, which is that each of you shall have no sexual relations except with your
This is
husband
always
or
super
wife,
awkward because
to whom you
everybody's
are
thinking about
legally
the same
and
thing.
lawfully wedded.
Everybody thinking about sex.
Each of you bring your right arm to the square. You and each of you covenant and promise before God, angels, and these witnesses that you will observe and keep the law of chastity as it has been explained to you.
God, angels, and these witnesses.
Each of you bow
pretty
your
serious
head
stuff.
and say yes.
Yes.
No.
That will do. We will now give unto you the first token of the Melchizedek priesthood,
Here we
or sign
go.
of the nail, with its accompanying name and sign.
Second.
This token
weird
is received by bringing the
Do you want me
right
to do it
hand
for you?
into this position.
What?
The hand vertical, the fingers close
Do it.
together.
We're gonna
and
show
the
ya.
thumb extended. And the person giving the token placing the tip of the forefinger
this.
of his right hand in the center of the palm, and the thumb opposite on the back of the hand of the one receiving it. In this manner.
Check it out.
We desire all to receive it. All arise.
They explain this one because it's the sign of the nail. It's a little more complex. But just like in the last one, to reiterate, they want everybody to receive it, which means that the temple workers, they all go around and do that with every single person and make sure that they get it right, because remember, God forbid that they make one little tiny mistake. No mercy here.
Which, mind you, is not ideal during COVID.
Yeah, for
The
real.
temples did close for a while.
If any of you have not received this token, you will please raise your hand.
Raise your hand.
I don't know how they are literally the ones who go around and do it. I don't know how they would miss anybody, but who knows?
The name of this token is the Son, meaning the Son of God.
I always thought
The
the
sign is
sun,
made
like
by
Same.
bringing
solar
the left
system.
hand in front of you with
Solar
the hand
system.
in cupping shape. The left arm forming a
Cupping
square.
shape.
The right hand is also brought forward, the palm down, the fingers close together, with the thumb extended. This is the sign.
Like I said, this has been adapted in the past 30 years. So we will revisit this, and there's some deeper meaning behind it that is rather
Let's just say
unsettling.
it gets a little graphic.
I will now explain the covenant and obligation which are associated with this token, its name and sign, and which you will be required to take upon yourselves. If I were receiving the endowment today, either for myself or for the dead, I would repeat in my mind these
your
words
mind, everybody.
after making the sign. I solemnly covenant before God, angels, and these witnesses in the name of the Son, that I will never reveal the first token of the Melchizedek priesthood or sign of the nail, with its accompanying name and sign. Each of you make the sign of the first token of the Melchizedek priesthood or sign of the nail by bringing the
Or
left
don't.
hand in front of you with the hand in cupping shape, the left arm forming a square. The right hand is also brought forward. the palm down, the fingers close together, with the thumb extended. This is the sign. Now repeat in your mind after me the words of the covenant.
In your
I
mind.
solemnly covenant before God, angels, and these witnesses, in the name of the Son, that I will never reveal the first token of the Melchizedek priesthood or sign of the nail with its accompanying name and sign. That will do.
It's just so funny because I think it's almost worse that you repeat these things in your head, because I would imagine when everything was first introduced in the 1800s that you would just repeat it out loud. And I think to save time and to make it less weird for newcomers, I don't know, they have just kind of had you do it in your head. But I feel like that's almost worse, that you're like repeating these things in your head, kind of. I won't go as far as to say brainwashing, which a lot of people would say, but it is.
But repetition
does
things to you.
Yeah.
Jehovah, we have been down to Adam and Eve and their posterity, have placed the robe on the right shoulder, and have introduced them into the terrestrial world. We have put them under covenant to observe and keep the law of chastity. We have also given them the first token of the Melchizedek priesthood, or sign of the nail, with its accompanying name and sign. This is our report.
It is well, Peter, James, and John.
Now guess what Jehovah's going to do?
Peter, James, and John have been down to Adam and Eve and their posterity, and have done all that they were commanded to do.
Probably should have
It
sped
is
this bit
well.
up.
Jehovah, send down Peter, James, and John, and instruct them to
Again.
give to Adam and Eve and their posterity in the terrestrial world the law of consecration, in connection with the law of the gospel and the law of sacrifice, and to cause them to receive it by covenant, to give unto them the second token of the Melchizedek priesthood, the patriarchal grip, or sure sign of the nail, with its accompanying sign, and to teach them the order of prayer.
I like to call this one the patriarchy grip. It's called the patriarchal grip, but yeah, it's better defined as the patriarchy grip, if you ask me.
And to prepare them in all things to receive further instructions at the veil. Then have them report at the veil.
It shall be done, Elohim. Peter, James, and John, go down to Adam and Eve and their posterity in the
We're
terrestrial
going to repeat
world,
everything that we just
and
said
give
to you
unto them the
again.
law
Again.
of consecration, in connection with the law of the gospel and the law of sacrifice, and cause them to receive it by covenant. Give unto them the second token of the
repetition.
Melchizedek priesthood, the patriarchal grip or sure sign of the nail, with its accompanying sign. Teach them the order of prayer, and prepare them in all
Shit's
things
about to
to
get
receive
fun.
further instructions at the veil. Then report at the veil.
It shall be done, Jehovah. Come, James and John, let us go down. A couple will now come to the altar.
Oh, they're back. My besties.
We are instructed to give unto you the law of consecration, as contained in the Book of Doctrine and Covenants, in connection with the law of the...
This one is also an important one because we'll probably need to explain a little more in depth about the law of consecration and how it was, but this is kind of for the future, this is how it's going to have to be. So keep your ears open on this one, because when you think about the implications, it's the possibilities are really endless.
and the law of sacrifice, which you have already received. It is that you do consecrate yourselves, your time, talents, and everything with which the Lord has blessed you, or with which he may bless you, to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, for the building up of the kingdom of God on the earth, and for the establishment of Zion.
That's everything. Everything you have.
Each
Time, talents.
Literally everything. And if you listen to Mike Norton's Mormon stories, which if you're going to look for it now, you might not be able to find, part of the reason why he did this was because in 2012, when Mitt Romney was running for president, he covenanted to do this a guy who would potentially be the president of the United States,
Awkward.
covenanted to do this. So would his allegiance really be to the American people, or did he pledge his allegiance to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
Dun, dun, dun.
So, yeah, it's pretty
Your right arm to the
wild.
square,
Dodged a bullet there.
and each of you covenant and promise before God, angels, and these witnesses at this altar, that you do accept the law of consecration as contained in the Doctrine and Covenants, in that you do consecrate yourselves, your time, talents, and everything with which the Lord has blessed you, or with which he may bless you, to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, for the building up of the kingdom of God.
Everything he has or may bless you with.
Covers all their bases. Past,
All
present,
the
future.
bases.
on the earth, and for the establishment of Zion. Each of you bow your head and say yes.
Yes.
That will do.
And if you said yes to this, there's like no, there's no hiding from it.
The second
God,
token of
angels,
the
and these
Melchizedek
witnesses.
Priesthood, the patriarchal grip or sure sign of the nail, with its accompanying sign. This token has reference to the crucifixion of the Savior. When he was placed upon the cross, the crucifiers drove nails through the palms of his hands. Then, fearing that the weight of his body would cause the nails to tear through the flesh of the hands, they drove nails through his wrists. Hence, in the palm is the sign of the nail, and in the wrist is the sure sign of the nail, or the nail in the sure place. This token is given by clasping the right hands, interlocking the little fingers, and placing the tip of the forefinger upon the center of the wrist, in this manner.
I don't know where the frame is going to be.
We desire all to receive it. All arise.
You'll get a close-up on these also later, so if you didn't see it very good, don't worry about
If
it.
any of you have not
We'll have a
received
different
this
angle.
token, you will please raise your hand. This token has a name and a sign. You will be under the same sacred obligation in connection with this token and sign as you are with the other tokens and signs of the holy priesthood which you have received in the temple this day. The name of this token will not be given to you at this stage of the endowment,
What?
but it will be
Plot
given
twist.
later on. The sign is made by raising both hands high above
This
the
is
head
where they lost me.
and
This,
This was it for
lowering the
me.
hands,
strap in, folks.
repeating aloud the words, "O God, hear the words of my mouth," repeated 3 times.
Maybe not so weird right now, but hold
When
on.
Adam was driven out of the Garden of Eden, he built an altar and offered prayer, and these are the words that he uttered. "O God, hear the words of my mouth," repeated 3 times. Each of you make the sign of the second token of the Melchizedek priesthood, the patriarchal grip or sure sign of the nail, by raising both hands high above the head, and while lowering the hands, repeating 3 times the words,
Nice, Mike.
"O God, hear the words of my mouth. O God, hear the words of my mouth. O God, hear the words of my mouth."
Yeah, that's actually a really empty room, too, so just imagine that times
Brethren
like
and
2 or
sisters,
3.
With the robe on the right shoulder, you are prepared to be taught the true order of prayer and to be introduced
Just so y'all know, the Mormons think that any prayers that you do, if you're not one of these Mormons,
at the
are lesser than the prayer that they're about to do here. That also brings up... Okay, actually, I'll let this go, and then we'll talk about it at the end.
veil. A few of you, including couples, will please come forward and form a circle around the altar.
The witnesses will please come forward and stand at the head of the altar.
This is where it's going to shift a little bit. The audio shifts a lot and might be really hard to hear. So just be aware of that. I did the best that I could.
Sisters are to the left of the brethren.
Only the best of feelings should exist in the circle. If any
So this one that he cuts to is in the Salt Lake Temple. It's one of the live ones where there's not recorded audio or video. So this is the temple worker right in front of them that's talking.
Only the best of feelings should exist in this
Yeah.
circle. So any animosity towards anybody else in your circle,
You should step out.
unkind feelings toward any member of this circle, you are invited to withdraw, so that the Spirit of the Lord may be unrestrained. In the circle, we make the signs of all the tokens of the Holy Priesthood. We will begin by making the sign of the first token of the Aaronic priesthood. This is done by bringing the right arm to the square, the palm of the hand
So here's your little review of all the signs right here.
front, the fingers close together, and the thumb extended. This is the sign. The name of this token is the new name received in the temple today.
The new name. That was
We will now
Isaac
make the
or
sign
Isaiah for me.
of the second token of the Aaronic priesthood. This is done by bringing the right hand in front of you, with the hand in cupping shape, the right arm forming a square, and the left arm being raised to the square.
Ooh, that
This is
angle
the sign.
change.
The name of this token is your first given name if you are going through the temple for your own endowment, or if you are going through for the dead, it is the first given name of the person for whom you are officiating. We will now make the sign of the first token of the Melchizedek priesthood, or sign of the nail. This is done by bringing the left hand in front of you, with the hand in cupping shape, the left arm forming a square. The right hand is also brought forward. The
This
palm
one we
down,
already saw.
The fingers close together, with the thumb extended. This is the sign. The name of this token is the Son, meaning the Son of God.
The closest star to Earth. No, I'm just kidding.
We will now make the sign of the second token of the Melchizedek priesthood, the Patriarchal Grip, or sure sign of the nail. This is done by raising both hands high above the head,
Just watch this.
lowering the hand, repeating 3 times the words, "O God, hear the words of my mouth."
For those who are listening, I suggest you watch this part. Oh my god.
"O God, hear the words of my mouth."
say
They're all in a
chanting
circle.
in a circle over an altar.
Yeah.
We have here a list of names of persons who are sick or otherwise afflicted, who are requested to remember in our prayer. We would ask the faith of all here to remember these persons.
Okay, so on the altar, the temple worker places a bag that's full of little slips of paper with people's names on them. So in the temple, usually in the dressing rooms, there is a little box with slips of paper that you can write people's names on, and you can put those names on or in the box, and they take those and they put them in the bags so they can be prayed over. They recommend that these people are like sick or afflicted in some sort of way.
But everyone does it for everyone.
Everybody
Like
does it for everyone.
It doesn't matter.
I definitely have been in there probably a multitude of times for various reasons. Probably one of the reasons being what I'm doing right now. So that's fun. But if somebody ever said, "Oh, I'll put your name in on the prayer roll" or whatever, this is so
is what they're
the
talking
intention is good. So usually like sick people or things like that. But the
How they're doing it.
execution is
Icky.
yeah.
Please veil their faces.
Veil your faces.
This was one of the changes that they made also. The women no longer veil their faces.
But we'll talk about that in the next video.
Each brother in the circle take the sister of his left by the right hand in the patriarchal grip.
So you got to do it like
Each
this.
of you bring your left arm to the square and rest it upon the shoulder or arm of the person to your left. Those in the circle will repeat the words of the prayer.
So if you didn't catch that, everybody in the circle makes the circle like binded by a man taking the woman, usually his wife, to his left by the patriarchal grip, and everybody raises their left arm to the square and puts it on the shoulder of the next person. I don't know if you could hear that. My face was kind of far away from my microphone. So everybody's in the circle like that. The temple worker kneels at the altar with the names on it, and he dictates, I guess. a prayer, and everybody in the circle repeats what he says. So just listen to this. I'm going to let the whole thing play real quick, and just listen just how crazy this sounds.
Our eternal Father in heaven.
Our eternal Father in heaven,
We, a few of thy children,
we, a few of thy children,
approach thee in prayer,
approach thee in prayer,
clothed in the robes of the holy priesthood,
clothed in the robes of the
Oh,
holy
this is kind of
priesthood,
loud.
in the order of prayer.
in the order of prayer.
We express our gratitude
We express our gratitude
for thy beloved Son,
for thy beloved Son,
for coming to earth
for coming to earth
to teach us the gospel
to teach us the gospel
by precept and deed.
by precept and deed.
May we strive with all strength
May we strive with all strength
to emulate our Savior.
to emulate our Savior.
We give thanks for the restoration of the gospel
We give thanks for the restoration of the gospel
through the prophet Joseph Smith,
through the prophet Joseph Smith,
and for the succeeding prophets, and even unto our day.
and to the succeeding prophets even unto our day.
Damn, dude, give him some breaks there. God.
Thou bless President Monson,
We pray that all bless President Monson,
that he may have thy spirit guide and direct him.
That's the prophet. At the time, it was Thomas S.
He may
Monson.
have health and strength.
I don't think up to this point he has said anything about the names on the altar.
Doesn't sound like
I
it.
don't
and
think
he
so.
may have health and strength.
Now we're grateful for the youth.
We're grateful for the youth.
We pray that they would be strengthened,
We pray that they will be strengthened,
that their
Whoopsie.
testimonies would enable them to withstand
that their testimonies will enable them to withstand
the sins of this day.
the sins of this day.
Now again, thanking thee for the privilege we have of being here.
Now again, thanking you for the privilege we have of being here.
We pray for those who come to us this day,
We pray for those who come to us this day,
troubled or concerned.
troubled or concerned.
Would thou hear their prayers
Wilt thou hear their prayers,
and give them assurance thou art there.
and give them assurance thou art there.
Thanking thee we do all this
Thanking thee we do all this,
in the name of Jesus Christ.
in the name of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Amen.
I don't know if he mentioned the names on the altar, which awkward for him. I might watch when I'm editing this. I'll probably watch this back and
Maybe
be
that
like, "Wow, I'm
includes
really stupid. My short-term memory sucks." But
The troubled and concerned. I don't know. I wasn't
Yeah.
really listening to it either.
Who
It
knows?
just sounds culty and chanty.
kid, I don't know if I ever did this. I'm trying to think if my first time if I did, but I don't remember
I did it once.
because I might have done it with been in the circle with my mom.
I did it once, and it was the worst thing ever.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't have even. Well, maybe one of your family members was there.
I think
Male
so.
family members. I would hate to do this. I don't think escorts usually do, or not the escorts, newbies.
They
usually
asked
do.
me to if I wanted to, and I said no.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Good. Jordan.
So this is like an
Anticipated
optional
that
thing.
somehow.
So like
Yeah.
you can volunteer to go up
But-
and do the circle.
But they're always looking. They need people to do it because you have to have like enough people so that you're not all standing like sticking your arm way out and to
Yeah.
be able to get everybody around the altar because they have to connect the circle around the altar.
Yep.
Like even to the point where they will bring people in like from outside. They're like, "Hey, can you be in the prayer circle? Come in here real quick." And you just like dress up real quick and just go in for this bit. It is
It's bizarre.
bizarre to say the least. So imagine you're going through the first time and you're sitting on the sidelines while this is happening and you're just like head down, one eye open, like, is this really happening?
With your face veiled if you're a woman.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's worth noting that not only the women in the circle veil their faces, all the women in the room veil their faces.
So all the women sitting on one side of the room do the same thing.
Yep. There's some good shots of everybody in the clothes.
We will now uncover the veil.
Dun dun dun.
So the curtain.
You thought
goes
there
back.
were the only curtains?
This is curtains on curtains in this.
There's
bitch.
more.
Brethren and sisters, this is the veil of the temple. I will now explain the marks on the veil. These 4 marks are the marks of the holy priesthood, and corresponding marks are found in your individual garment. On the right is the mark of the square. It is placed in the garment over the right breast, suggesting to the mind exactness and honor in keeping the covenants entered into this day. On the left is the mark of the compass. It is placed in the garment over the left breast, suggesting to the mind an undeviating course leading to eternal life.
So those are on your
A
top
constant
garments.
reminder that
Yeah.
desires, appetites, and passion.
You can't see it in here, but there are cuts in the curtain with flaps. And you'll see a little bit in a second here what happens with those.
Are to be kept within the bounds the Lord has set, and that all truth may be circumscribed into one great whole. This is the navel mark. It is placed in the garment over the navel,
Your third
suggesting to the
one on
mind the
top.
need of constant nourishment to body and spirit. This is the knee mark. It is placed in the right leg of the garment, so as to be over the kneecap, suggesting that every knee shall bow and every tongue confess that Jesus is the Christ. These
I don't know if that phrase is unique to Mormons.
I don't know, but that's always the one that stuck
don't
out.
other
remember.
marks are for convenience in working at the veil. Through this one,
I also loved, sorry for pausing, but they always have like this, one of those little telescopic little pointer guys, little metal things that a
like-
teacher would have.
Yep.
It's kind of funny.
the person representing the Lord puts forth his right hand to test our knowledge of the tokens of the holy priesthood. Through
Why is
the
his
one on
face
the
suddenly
right,
blurred?
He
I just
asks
realized.
us certain questions. Through the one on the left, we give our answers. As all of you will have to pass through the veil, we will show you how this is to be done.
So this is also considered the testing
This is the
phase.
test. So you got to take all the knowledge that you have and you get tested at the end with somebody behind the veil that's going to test your knowledge on the handshakes and the names.
Yeah. So this is allegedly modeling what the sentinel angels will do when you're in heaven, like in order to be able to get into the super duper VIP.
Because the veil, for Mormons, the veil is what they believe passes, like what you pass through between this life and the next. And
Yeah.
so they'd say, some people are really close to the veil and, that's the whole nature of it. So when you pass through the veil, it's symbolic of you passing into the next life.
Yeah. So there you go. We'll let him talk a little more, but
Brought to this
We're
point,
nearing the
and
end.
the worker gives 3 distinct taps with the mallet,
the little mallet.
whereupon the Lord parts the veil and asks,
What is wanted?
Adam, having been true and faithful in all things, desires further light and knowledge by conversing with the Lord through the veil.
Present him at the veil, and his request shall be granted.
The person is then brought to this point, whereupon the Lord puts forth his right hand, gives the
Through the
first
curtain.
token of
It's
the
so
Aaronic
creepy.
priesthood.
It's weird.
Like this
Yes.
man's hand just
What is
merged.
that?
The first token of the Aaronic priesthood.
Has it a name?
It has,
Will you give it to me?
I will through the veil. The person then gets through the veil the name of this token, which is the new name received in the temple today. The Lord then gives the second token of the Aaronic priesthood and asks,
What is that?
See how you're just constantly going through all the things?
Over and over
You do
and
it.
over again.
You do it again. You keep doing
the
it
second
all the
token of the
time.
Aaronic priesthood.
Has it a name?
It has,
Will you give it to me?
I will through the veil. The person then gives the name of this token, which is his first given name if he is going through the temple for his own endowment, or if he is going through for the dead. It is the first given name of the person for whom he is officiating. The Lord then gives the first token of the Melchizedek priesthood, or sign of the nail, and asks,
What is that?
the first token of the Melchizedek priesthood, or sign of the nail.
Has it a name?
It has,
Will you give it to me?
I will through the veil. The person then gives the name of this token, which is the Son, meaning the Son of God. The
Can you
Lord
see
then
how
gives the
these
second
are
token.
like construed to be the secret handshakes to get into heaven.
Because you have to do them all right. And if you don't do them correctly, they will move your hand so that you do it correctly, or they'll make you redo it.
Yeah. You have to know it exactly, or else I guess your ass is going to hell or something.
Yep.
Of the Melchizedek priesthood, the patriarchal grip or sure sign of the nail, and asks,
What is that?
the second token of the Melchizedek priesthood, the patriarchal grip or sure sign of the nail.
Has it a name?
It has.
Will you give it to me?
I cannot. I have not yet received it. For this purpose I have come to converse with the Lord through the veil.
You shall receive it through the veil.
It is received as left arms are placed upon right shoulders through the veil. The Lord then gives the name of...
So you reach your arm through the curtain and touch the guy on the other side.
So let me tell you how weird this is, because all the people on the other side of the veil are men. There are no women.
What did I do? Did I just go to the end?
Probably.
Yeah. Hold on. This won't be so hard.
There you go.
There we go. Sorry about that, everybody. You won't miss much on this.
So all these dudes are men, right? And so as a woman, plus I'm short, so every time this would happen, you're like face to face with this person through the veil. So you can't see them, they can't see you, and then you just have to like extend their arm to touch them, and it's usually like these cute frail old men. And so it's like especially awkward. And it's like it's just the most awkward thing. Like you're body to body with this person.
Yeah. Also, the thing that up until this point I was like, yo, they model everything. I'm not worried about it. And then they're like, oh yeah, they just tell you through the veil. In this part, the recording, they don't say what the name is. And it's not short. It's not the Son or McKay.
It's like
or
4
Isaiah.
sentences.
It's longer, and they're whispering, so it's really hard to hear. So at this point, I was like, uh-oh, even though they're really forgiving and will just correct you if you don't say it right. But it's stressful as shit, especially if you're doing it in a language that's not your native tongue. Oh, yeah, that shit was stressful.
The person is again brought to this point, and the worker gives 3 distinct taps with the mallet.
Tap, tap, tap-a-rooney.
The Lord parts the veil and asks,
What is wanted?
Adam, having conversed with the Lord through the veil, desires now to enter his presence. The Lord puts forth his right hand, takes the person by the right hand, and says,
Let him enter.
He is admitted into the presence of the Lord.
You slip through the veil.
Yeah.
You walk through it.
It's weird.
It's the most bizarre thing.
They have to like kind of mime the action. So he's like, I'm the temple worker, and he's like to mime that he's going through the veil. It's kind of funny.
We will now report. Jehovah, we have been down to Adam and Eve and their posterity in the terrestrial world, and have given unto them the law of consecration, and have caused
He's
them
still
to
got to
receive
go
it by
back
covenant.
and talk to him again.
We have given unto them the second token of the Melchizedek priesthood,
The debrief.
patriarchal grip or sure sign of the nail with its accompanying sign, and have taught them the order of prayer. They are now ready to converse with the Lord through the veil. This is our report.
It is well, Peter, James, and John. Elohim, Peter, James, and John have been down to Adam and Eve and their posterity in the terrestrial world, and have done all that they were commanded to do.
It is well. Jehovah, instruct Peter, James, and John to introduce Adam and Eve and their posterity at the veil, where we will give unto them the name of the second token of the Melchizedek priesthood, the patriarchal grip or sure sign of the nail, preparatory to their entering into our presence.
It shall be done, Elohim. Peter, James, and John,
Oh my God.
you will introduce Adam and Eve and their posterity at the veil, where we will give unto them the name of the second token of the Melchizedek priesthood, the patriarchal grip or sure sign of the nail, preparatory to their entering into our presence.
It shall be done, Jehovah. Come, James and John.
Shall it?
We will introduce them at the veil. Brethren and sisters, we are instructed to introduce you at the veil, where you will receive the name of the second token of the Melchizedek priesthood, the patriarchal grip or sure sign of the nail, preparatory to your entering into the presence of the Lord.
So the entering the presence of the Lord in this case is entering the celestial room, which you will see. So it kind of completes the process of, oh, you're in the garden room, and then, the lights change to represent, or you move to the terrestrial world, and then you move through the veil into the celestial world, kind of like this progression. So here's Mike. He's going to go up to the veil and do this. This is where I was mentioning that you would get a better view of the handshakes, and you'll be able to hear what the name of the third or the second token of the Melchizedek priesthood is.
There's the mallet.
There's the mallet. I don't know if you caught that.
Ding, ding, ding.
Desires for the light knowledge, like conversing with the Lord through the veil. For and in behalf of Aaronic Yulk. That's the
veil is requestfully granted.
There it is.
It's
So
weird.
creepy.
The first token of the Aaronic priesthood. It has. I will through the veil.
And Mike does it like a pro.
Eli.
What is that?
The second token of the Aaronic.
So everybody in that room that is a man is going to say Eli for the first token of the Melchizedek priesthood. Or the Aaronic priesthood. God, I get it wrong every time. I don't care.
Priesthood. It has.
Not as good a close-up as I was thinking.
Heinrich.
What is that?
The first token of the Melchizedek priesthood, or sign of the nail.
Has it a name?
It has.
Will you give it to me?
I will through the veil. The sun.
What is that?
The second token of the Melchizedek priesthood, the patriarchal grip, or sure sign of the nail.
Has it a name?
It has.
Will you give it to me?
I cannot. I have not yet received it. For this purpose, I have come to converse with the Lord through the veil.
I have not received it, and I am shitting my pants because I don't know what it is, and you're asking me what it is right now.
You shall receive it through the veil.
So
this is the shoulder thing, right?
yeah, you're like basically almost face to face
With this person.
through a curtain, which
don't even
is
know who
the
they are.
weirdest part of all time.
It's not a thick curtain either.
No, it's usually pretty thin. And I put the text on the screen, so if you're listening, it might be hard to hear when he says it, but when Mike says it, it's a lot easier
Help
to hear.
marrow in the bones, strength in the loins and in the sinew. All blessings be upon me and upon my posterity, through all generations of time and throughout all eternity. What is that?
Second token of the Melchizedek priesthood,
Repeat.
the patriarchal grip, or sure sign of the nail.
Has it a name?
It has.
Will you give it to me?
I will through the veil.
This is just like that part in the beginning where Elohim's like, and what shall you call this woman? And he's like, I will call her Eve. Why will you call her that? Because she's the mother of all living. That is correct. Like, here's the answer, but yeah, I still have to ask you.
Health in the navel, marrow in the bones, strength in the loins and in the sinews. Power in the priesthood be upon me and upon my posterity through all generations of time and throughout all eternity.
That is correct.
And we're back to the mallet again.
Having conversed with the Lord through the veil.
I guess it should be noted, there's like little, it's almost like you're in a little stall or something, because the mallet is just behind the curtain, but it's attached to like a pole so they can bunk the
So
pole.
it's attached to it, yeah.
It's weird. And then he lets him
now
in.
he gets pulled through. So now you're in the hallway.
So this is the celestial room in the temple that he went in. I don't remember which one it is, but I will put some pictures up of the other celestial rooms or something. And I also added on a part of a different video where he's just walking around. It is a little nauseating at first, so please bear with me on this one.
But this just shows the attention to detail, the intensity, the white. I mean, these rooms are gorgeous.
Yeah. Usually vaulted ceilings, and they're all kind of on the same level, regardless of where you go. Seeing pictures of it is one thing, but seeing people in there,
like, look at that chandelier,
dressed.
Look at that.
It's insane.
Look at that.
That might be the Ochre Mountain Temple. I don't remember. Those ones are all kind of similar that were built around the same time.
The flowers.
But everybody in there
marble.
is dressed in these
God-awful
ceremonial clothes, which is just weird. And you're supposed to maintain like the utmost reverence. They have scriptures throughout, so you can sit and ponder the holy scriptures, and stuff like that. All the furniture is really comfortable, so it's really easy to fall asleep in there.
It's like the detail is hard to describe. Like there's even designs etched into the carpet.
Yeah.
Like
what is even the term embroidered in the carpet?
I don't even know. But it is like every single piece of the temple from top to bottom is like exquisite. Like I don't know how else to describe it. Yeah. They spend millions of dollars on these buildings, and this is why.
Not decorations that you would want in your house, but like if you were imagining a palace or something like that, you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Because this is symbolic of heaven, right? Or the top tier heaven,
kingdom.
The celestial kingdom. And so that's what it's designed to be like, which is why it's like, kind of grandiose, maybe as some people would imagine. But the part of this that I also want to say is, and somebody asked about this in the last video, a lot of people will ask us, like, did you ask your parents, like, after you went through this? Like, did you talk about it? Like, what is the kind of protocol for these things? And they tell you, as we've established, that you can't talk about these things with non-members for sure.
Yeah.
But you're not supposed to talk about these things that you've seen here outside of the temple. Even amongst members, you're not supposed to talk about it.
Yeah, and, well, especially the specifics, but... Well, really, the specifics of the signs and the tokens and the covenants, and maybe not even really the covenants, but particularly the signs of the tokens and their names, you're not supposed to talk about at all. You're explicitly not supposed to talk about that outside of the temple.
Even amongst members. So it doesn't even matter if you all know what happens.
Yeah.
Like you still can't talk about it, which is to me another huge red flag. When you've all participated in the same experience and you know the weirdness and the bizarreness of it, and
you're
you
not
can't
supposed to talk
about it.
We would, oh my God. I sometimes would say, oh, we will go down or something like that. And it would usually get a couple glances like, you shouldn't be doing that. And there's no explicit thing that says you can't like say things like that. It's just those things. But everybody extrapolates that idea to everything about the temple. So the celestial room is really the only place where you may feel comfortable enough to ask questions to your fellow, like your family members, or
when you go through for the first time, you all end up in the same room, right? So you all end up in the celestial room, and when you come out, like when you do your piece for the first time, and usually you go, and then either one person is with you or kind of the rest come through, but then they like want to ask you questions, and they're like, it was so cool, what'd you think, blah blah blah, and you're just sitting there like, oh my God.
Yeah, but you're all doing this in like the most hushed whisper that you can, because it's supposed to be the utmost reverence.
I just picture the Steve Carell face when he's like, not that, when he's doing like that.
I'll put that up there.
That's what I think of when I came out of here, because I was speechless. Like I truly, and it puts a lot of pressure on you when you're in there for the first time, because people are like, well, what questions do you have? And you're like,
this just happened to me. Let me process, damn it.
Yeah, like I don't even know where to begin. Because a few people in our last video asked how we felt about it when we first went through. And I had immense anxiety about it, right? I had like deep, immense anxiety because I don't do well with things I can't control, right? I have generalized anxiety disorder, so I had a lot of fears surrounding this. But the secondhand piece of this that kind of contributes to making it a lot worse is that nobody will tell you. At least like the good, God-fearing, supposedly, members.
The ones who take it very seriously would not do that.
And so, fun fact of the day, I was so horrified about what happened, I looked it up before I went. Maybe like a night or two before I went. And I was like, I need to know because like I can't not. And so Mike's been at this a while. So what's the first thing that comes up? His video, right? So I flipped it on for maybe 5 to 10 seconds and I was like, no, this is fake. They staged it. It's made up. There's no way in hell. And so I was like, now I've given myself more anxiety because I've just watched this thing and now God is mad at me because I wasn't supposed to do that and I'm just supposed to trust in the Lord, right? And then we go in and I'm like,
oh my God.
Oh my God, this is actually what I just witnessed. And so it was almost worse because I saw it and I was like, worst case scenario is that happens. And then it happened.
Yeah. I remember when I was in the MTC is kind of broken up into similar...
missionary training center.
Yeah, missionary training center. Broken up into districts of a couple different missionary companionships, both elders and sister missionaries, so men and women. They don't intermingle, but we're just as kind of like a unit, all of us gringos in the Guatemala missionary training center just kind of banded together learning Spanish. One of the sisters mentioned to us that she also had a similar experience where she was super anxious about the temple, and her mom like sat her down the night before and told her about what was going to happen. And I remember just being appalled that her mom didn't respect the temple and the covenants enough to let her daughter flounder. Like, it's ridiculous when you really think about it. So this shit they don't talk about, and really there are a lot of more nuanced Mormons who are like, it's dumb that we don't talk about it outside of the temple, just, leaving out the signs and tokens. But can you imagine why the people don't talk about it outside the temple? Because they don't want to give their kids or their peers any reason to not want to go in there, because a lot of people would probably hear about this shit and go, no, thank you. I don't want to do that. I am not interested in that. Thank you.
And I think that's why the piece about it being sacred and the fixation of the church members on thinking that it's sacred, to me, is a manipulation. The church has manipulated them into thinking that this is a sacred thing, when in reality, even amongst the members who know what happens, they don't want you talking about it, because how do you have a conversation about it without it being like, yeah, it's weird? You know what I mean? And you take that a few steps further and they're like, yeah, it is weird. I wonder why we do that. And I wonder where this came from. And I wonder how we got there. And then that potentially sometimes sends you down a path that does not lead back to church resources. Well, it starts there, but then it branches you out into actual historically accurate information.
Yeah. So it fosters this dynamic, like where we're at now. I know exactly what goes on in the temple, but there's not a chance in hell that any of the former members that we used to hang around, or our family members, would discuss this with us now, because we are now...
We're apostates.
They would not talk, even though we know exactly what's going on. We go to a wedding, we know exactly what they're doing across the altar from each other. Which is an innuendo. We'll explain it, what's going on.
You don't do it in the temple. No. There's no consummation in the temple. We get that question a lot.
Sorry. But they wouldn't discuss anything like that, more than likely. And I don't want to make a generalizing statement, but on the whole, that's kind of the vibe that everybody has toward speaking of the temple outside of the celestial room, basically. Yeah.
So you can talk about it, and they tell you can in the celestial room. Anywhere else is a no-go, but you also have to whisper in the celestial room. So everybody's like, how was it? What did you think? Hey, did you like it?
Hey, did you feel the spirit?
Is it so holy?
Is it amazing as you thought it would be?
And it's especially weird, especially when you go for the first time, because it's all your family, a lot of your family members, right? If you're if you got lots of family in the church, and you go for the first time and everybody's dressed in this shit. And so these are all your family members and everybody's just like standing around in these god awful outfits. And it's just the most bizarre thing to see. Like everybody just dressed up in these horrible things and acting like we've just participated in one of the most essential pieces of earning salvation.
Yeah. It's weird. And I mean, a lot of times you're about to go on your mission, and this is basically how you're going to remember your family when you leave. Is like, this was one of the last things that we did together. Wow, that's something.
But to further that point about our experiences, I had a few, like when we talk about faith and we talk about, believing in the church, we think about things in terms of a shelf. And the shelf is your belief in the church, right? So as time goes on and you participate and you do things, you see things that you're like, oh, I don't like that. I don't agree with that. That's weird to me. I don't fully understand. And so when you start to build things like that, essentially on your shelf, you start to put things there. And I had a few things there from the beginning, and that's a video for another day. But the biggest, like the first crack in my shelf, the big one, initially was the endowment ceremony, because by the time I thought the whole thing was bizarre, but by the time we got to the hands coming down and chanting, that was it for me.
Done.
I knew, and it wasn't even like this is stupid. Like I internally felt sick. Like I was like, this is gross. Something is off here. I'm not comfortable doing this. Like this is not it. You go from like going to church every Sunday and everything being like super typical and super normal.
Yeah.
And then you participate in this crazy ritual that is not even anywhere near what you do every Sunday. Like, and there's no preparation to enter you into this. It's just total baptism by fire, and it's by design.
Yeah. The only time Jordan and I ever did the endowment together was in August of 2018. That was the second and final time that I ever even saw Jordan in those clothes. Like, and I didn't even really know that she had this terrible of an experience until after the fact, after we left and everything like that. So it made total sense. I was like, oh, we never did endowments because you were basically scarred by it. So that's fun.
It gave me so much anxiety.
Oh, I guess we did sealings other times.
We did sealings, which is different. And we did initiatories. The first video that we did about temple series, I did that a lot because there's no memorization either, and there's no.
You just sit there.
You just sit there, and it's a lot easier. But
well,
the endowment,
now you don't have to be naked or semi-naked,
right,
anymore. So,
but mind you, my experience was I wasn't getting married. I wasn't going on a mission. I simply did it because members pedestalize this experience and are like, the temple is everything. It's the pinnacle of Mormonism. It's the most spiritual experience you'll ever have in your life is within the temple, and they talk about it like that before you go through. And so I felt like I was ready, and I told my bishop, I want to go, I want to do it. And he signed off on it and gave me permission, and I went, and I was invested. I thought this was going to be an otherworldly experience because that's how they prep you for it. And then you go and this happens to you and you're like,
yikes.
What? So I was very disappointed. I mean, I walked out of the temple that day feeling a variety of things, the least of which was like enlightened.
Yeah. I, on the other hand, had a mission to go on. So I had there was no room for me to feel uneasy about it. I just did it. So I don't recall any feelings of uneasiness. Usually, most of what I can remember was surrounding the testing portion. But other than that, I just put my head down and pressed on. And my whole family was there. I was like, how could I possibly not like feel what they're feeling? Why would I be different? So anyway, that was long.
So this is why the endowment is so long and takes forever.
Yeah.
Because it's sometimes up to 2 hours to go through this whole experience, depending on the temple that you're in and the speed at which you get to the veil, because You can't all be
Yeah.
up there at once.
Yeah, it depends on where in the room you're. If you were sitting at the back, ooh, good luck.
You're there
You
for
were
a
waiting
while.
for a while because only so many people can be tested at one time.
So if you're wondering, if you're like, you went through, like us, you went through this whole experience and you're like, that's it? That's the end? We're like, yes, that's it. There's no further explanation. There's no further teaching. If you don't understand, and everybody tells you it's all symbolism, so you have to understand the symbolism. They'll tell you if you don't understand what's happening, then you just need to go more.
Yeah,
That's their go-to.
really, if you're gonna find any symbolism, it is essentially just cramming whatever thing you can find into whatever vague Bible verse that you can find. That's really and it's super ambiguous, and there's
This is the further knowledge and enlightenment that you're supposed to get, right? This is it. Like, it's just a bunch of weird handshakes, symbolic shit that's happening, lots of repetition, chanting in circles over an altar, which sounds like, if you said that out of context, like if you told a Mormon, like, look at these like weird people who are chanting
in a circle
over an altar, the Mormons would fucking shit their pants.
Dude,
like,
yeah.
they would be like, oh my God, like Satanists, what's happening?
If you mentioned like Satan in any of those things in the exact same thing, just in different wording, people would be like, what the fuck? Like,
it would be like, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm not even going to touch that. And so, but you put it in context of Mormonism and a ritual, and people are like, oh yeah.
Yeah. The patriarchal grip. That's what they're doing. It's, the second
handshakes.
token of the Melchizedek priesthood. So
It's bizarre. It's bizarre. And so the majority of your adult Mormon friends who either got married or went on missions,
yeah. Anybody who wears the garment,
they've done this. So all your little influencers that you follow that wear the garmies, they did this.
They did this.
So it's just the kind of weird thing
Yeah.
when you think about Mormons from here on out. Now that this has kind of shifted your perspective, you'll be like, oh my God, they all did that weird thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
So
We all did.
this was the video portion. This is the second in our 3-part series. Next time, we're going to be talking about the ties to Masonry or interpolations, however you want to call it. But you'll see. And a lot of the changes that have been made to the ceremony over time, a lot of them are extremely shocking. Like, you thought this was weird. It gets so much worse.
If you went through the temple like a long ass time ago,
yeah,
you've seen some shit, man. You've seen some shit.
Yeah, we will talk less shit on the early Mormons because, oh my God, they went through the ringer.
Like what we thought was culty. Oh my God, they were.
Anyway, so.
But that will be the next video, and we'll answer all the questions. Like, if you have additional questions, comment them, and we'll try to answer those in the next video.
Them.
There'll be a lot of things that we go over in the next video.
Yeah. So, if you liked what you saw, why? But if you like what we're doing, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and smash that like button consensually. Our friend Jen, Fundy Fridays, I love that she says that. Awesome.
So funny.
Anyway, if you'd like to support us, we have a couple different ways that you can do that. You can buy some of our merch. Happy Brain Collective is our Etsy store, and we also have t-shirts with a lot of the same designs. If you are looking for a Satan's Ponzi Scheme shirt in the style of a metal band, stay tuned. Anyway, we also have a Patreon that you can join. We do some exclusive stuff over there, and you can watch these videos ad-free. That's also in the description. How else can they support us? Anyway,
follow us on Instagram. We do updates on there daily. We get lots of feedback on Instagram about topics and things, so make sure you follow us on there.
At Jordan and McKay on Instagram and TikTok.
We don't post as many on there, but we have lots of videos from way back when if you want to watch.
Yeah, those are all, some of those are really fun, so go check them out. Some of them are temple clothing related, so go see that if you please.
Dancing temple clothes.
Yeah. So yeah, I died a little bit inside watching this. Yep. I hope that you are all doing okay. Check your pulse, take a deep breath, hydrate.
Do some self-care after what you witnessed.
Do some self-care, and we will see you next time.